Well, class, welcome to week 12. We are going to spend some time during this lecture recapping weeks 10 and 11. But I promise it's not going to be too long, as these are concepts that we have in part throughout the entire class been talking about. But we'll go over them a little bit more in detail. So we're going to just jump right in. We're going to start with self-disclosures. This was a big topic for last week. As y'all know by now, self-disclosure is going to be when you as the therapist are using your own story and personal examples from your own life and bringing them into the therapeutic setting in order to help your client maybe engage, to feel normalized. Maybe it's kind of in an analogy way to help them better understand what they're going through. But self-disclosure is something that you could use as a therapeutic technique or invention, of course, sparingly as you see fit. And of course, it depends on the client also. So I shared a few weeks ago some different examples of positive self-disclosure that went really well and was really beneficial for the session, as well as some negative experiences of self-disclosure. So I'm not going to go over those again, but of course, if you are curious to know more about that, you can go back and watch those videos. But self-disclosure is something that can be very, very powerful in a counseling session. Of course, you're always going to want to keep in mind, what is this going to benefit the client? Are you currently working through that issue? So if a client is working through, let's say they're working through a divorce because their spouse cheated on them, and you're currently going through that, use of self-disclosure might not, of that particular experience, might not be the most beneficial. That's where countertransference might definitely come in. So you're going to want to be really careful. You're going to want to make sure that the things that you're disclosing to the client are things that you already have had a chance to work through and come to a resolution on, or things that you're at peace with, essentially. Those are great things to be bringing into the session. So just as a quick example, another positive way or a way that you could use self-disclosure, I have a family that I work with, and there's a teenage girl who is about 17. There's a teenage boy who's 14, and then a younger son who is about 8 or so. And one of the issues that the older sister has is sometimes being the little mother and kind of overstepping mom, and kind of taking on mom's roles and trying to punish the boys and discipline them and all of those sorts of things. And while sometimes it can be helpful, she's definitely overstepping her bounds, and she's feeling a lot of kickback from both her brothers and her mom. And so one of the ways that I have joined with that older sister is by sharing parts of my own story and helping her understand that I truly know what it's like to be not only the oldest child, but the oldest daughter with younger brothers, because I am the oldest child of 4, and I have 3 younger brothers. So I definitely understand what it's like and the dynamics of having brothers and being the oldest in some of those responsibilities. And so that's a way that I've used to help join with her and offer her empathy and let her know, hey, I do know what's going on here. And she responds very, very well to that, because we can talk about then, what's it like to be that oldest child? What are those responsibilities like? What do you need in order to still be a child? All of those sorts of things. And so it becomes a very, very positive thing. So that's a little word on self-disclosure. Reflection of feelings, which we've also been talking about, is going to be a way that you as a therapist can really affirm what your client is saying as far as feelings and emotions. A reflection of feelings is going to be something like, I hear you saying that you're sad. Tell me more about that. Or I hear you saying, oftentimes throughout our session, the word anger. Can you tell me more about that? And we're kind of reflecting back what we're hearing. Now there is, within a reflection of feelings, there's kind of a next or more advanced step, which is called a higher level response. And that's where the client's not necessarily able to identify what it is that they're actually feeling, but that we as a therapist then can come in and help them pick out what it really is. I think one thing that's really important to remember is that there's really no wrong feelings. There's no wrong emotions. How we feel is the way that we feel. Now, of course, how we react because of those emotions can have either positive or negative consequences, but it's never our job as a therapist to say to our clients, oh, well, you shouldn't feel like that, or to even encourage our clients to say that to one another or to themselves. the way we feel is the way we feel, and I think it's very valid to be able to bring that into the session. So as a higher level response, that would be where we are intently listening to the client and being able to pull out of maybe their confusion a feeling or an emotion. So for instance, I have a client that I work with, and he came in one day and was incredibly anxious. He had a family member who had recently been caught for robbing a bank and then holding a police officer at gunpoint. And he was really anxious. There was just a lot of chaos going on. It wasn't a direct family member, it was an extended family member. And he was very confused at why this all happened and what was going on. And when I asked him to talk about, where did that hit him? What was the emotion connected to this? Instantly, he said there was anxiety. And as we kind of peeled the layers back a little bit more, what became very obvious was that it wasn't necessarily anxiety that he was feeling as his primary emotion, but rather it was anger. He was very angry at this family member for doing this thing. He was very angry because it went against his values. He's a hardworking man. He provides for his family in an honest way. So this was very difficult for him to grasp why somebody would try to cheat the system. And so that higher level response was me being able to offer him feedback and say, what it really sounds like here is that you're struggling a lot with anger. And as we got more into that, he was able to identify that, yeah, it really is anger that I'm feeling, and we were able to explore the anger and really kind of come to a nice resolution. So that would be a higher level response. We're going to go ahead and pause the video right here, and we'll be back in just a moment.